Hi everyone, welcome to the Mom series, The Misunderstanding of Multiplicity, where I'm not going to talk about multiplicity today. No, I'm not. I'm going to show off my new hat I made. Yep. It's called the Chica Beanie, and I thought it was worth sharing because it's a really cool pattern. And you can put it back if you want, or you can put it forward. And this is the small. I have a 19.5 circumference head, so it's a child size head. This pattern comes in small, medium, or medium large. You can find it at knitandcrochetnow.com. Annie's Signature Designs. So I'm a member of Annie's catalog, and there are tons of good things there. There's like TV episodes, video tutorials of every kind of knitting stitch, crochet stitch, embroidery, tatting, everything, macrame. So I'd have to say, and I've said this before, and I think I've shown this before, but never in this color that I've done one. I've done a few of these now. I love hats. When you have really thin hair and when you have allergies and you don't want the pollen in your hair, and I have a lot of bad hair days, and I switch between a wig my aunt gave me and hats that I've made and scarves. And interestingly, where I live, it's a very dominant Spanish community over the past couple of years in the apartment complex I live in. And a lot of the women, um, I'd say brown and black, brown skin, more brown skinned people, and you're either going to catch a lot of women with really decorative scarf dresses in the summertime, or do rags, or beanies. And I think they wear them as sun hats, same as I do. But also, when you're out there gardening and everything, you don't want to get the pollen in your hair in the early spring and the ragweed in the fall. And so a lot of women do put a very light cap on and just throw it on. And this is really a nice one because it's got a lot of texture in it. It's kind of like a Bob Marley hat. Really cool. And I think anyone can wear it, but I've noticed that a lot of the women where I live will wear them in very festive colors all summer, spring, into the autumn. And so I've been playing with colors and everything and making these. And um, this is a really, really nice pattern for knitting. And I found it at knitandcrochetnow.com. And the designer of this Chica Beanie is Lena, I can never say her name right, Skirvikson, okay, and I will put the information in the information so you have it. But if you went to her Ravelry, she has a beautiful Ravelry page, Lena does. She's one of Annie's signature designers. This pattern I think runs, somewhere from $4 to $6. But if you're a member of Knit and Crochet Now, Annie's catalog, you get everything. You get every pattern there. I think you have to bump up to like premium subscription to get some of their tutorials that are in studio and podcast, but they do show all their special stitches. What I love about them is their designers will make sure to have a knit design, whether it's a scarf or a blanket or a rug or whatever. If they're knitting it, they will make sure to have a designer to crochet it. And so if you're not a knitter, you're more of a crocheter, you can find almost the same thing in crochet. There's nothing that you can't do in crochet that you can do in knitting and vice versa. It's all in the design. So this one is crocheted. This reminds me so much of a cousin of, every time I look at it, I'm like, I'm looking at a cousin of mine. Very pretty model. Anyways, this one is designed by Bendy Carter. And I will leave the show notes and episode notes. And this is called the three. Yeah, three. I had to look at that. I should put my glasses on. The 3-hook hat. Because you're using 3 crochet hooks, and there's small, medium, and large. And for some of the pattern, you're using an I hook, and for some of the pattern, everyone is using a G hook. And then for the larger circumference, and I will go over the circumferences just to tell you, you do need more yarn in crochet than in knit. What I use to make this is, feels like butter, not even 3/4 of the skein, 3.5. And this is by Lion Brand, and it's my new favorite yarn. It's 100% polyester, but it feels so light and airy and cozy. It's just really nice. And this is their lemon. Is the colorway, but that is their cream. And that's what color it works up to. It's just dreamy, it's cushy, it's nice. A little more pricey, but well worth it. Because it's not going to snag up on you or get all snarly when you're knitting. So I substituted that yarn for what they're using here is a Baracco vintage worsted weight 4. That's a mixed blend of acrylic, about 40% wool, and nylon. And I don't work with wool because I don't work with animal fiber, but no judgment if you do. But if you need to find a substitute, you can do this with any 4 medium worsted weight yarn as long as you obtain your gauge. So for the knit version, you're basically just doing a rib stitch for as many rows as it tells you to. And then all you need to know how to do is, I'm just calling this the tubing part, or this, the tubing part. You're just doing a succession of knit stitches and purl stitches in various places, because I can't tell the pattern. I'm trying to be very careful. But what I will say about this pattern is it will tell you after you've done your brim to do a succession of knit and purl stitches that creates this tube. Look. And then you'll go into what they're calling the false Fisherman Rib stitch. And really, if you're familiar with slip stitch knitting or mosaic knitting, where you are basically yarning over with your yarn in the back, or yarning forward with your yarn in the front, or slipping a stitch as if to purlwise in the front, or slipping a stitch as if to knit in the back, you're doing a succession of 2 rows. So the false Fisherman Rib is really mosaic slip stitching, where you're doing 2 rows over and over again here, and the 2 rows complete the stitch. So it's almost like Tunisian crochet, where you're doing a complete revolution before you get the stitch, and it creates a lot of shape and movement. I will show you some of these stitches, but that's it. That's all you need to know how to do. Cast on, knit, purl, slip a stitch, yarn over, and cast off. So the materials you need are your yarn of choice. Your gauge is 18 stitches over 24 rows in garter stitch, like, or stockinette stitch, so you're just knitting back and forth. But you're not going to pull on it or block it. So 10 centimeters or 4x4. And the yarns I found that were comparable substitutes is Karen Simply Soft, Avid, and Orchid. That's an economical yarn. Mainstay yarn, which comes from the Church of Walmart. I found quite a few colors that worked up really nice with denim, and it came almost, it washed up like a stone wash and a dark denim together, so it had kind of a variegated splash look to it. I got to get that one and show it to you in another video. And then also Lion Brand Mandela yarn that blocks up. I just took the colors I liked and pulled them out if I wanted to do all one color. And then you also can switch up your yarn in between. When you get, I mean, you can change your yarn with this, which is fun. You just have to weave it in and be careful around your join how you do it. So they're using a 16-inch circular needle, US 8, 5mm, and 5 DPNs to close off the top of your hat. But if you are more comfortable with the magic loop, which is a longer, do I have? Like, okay, this is a 16-inch, 5mm, right? And for very small projects, you could actually even use a 16-inch, although I wouldn't try. But I have Takumi Clover interchangeable needles, and so you have these different sizes here. So if you have like a, let's say anywhere from a 29, 36, or a 40-inch, 36 to 40-inch cable, interchangeable, just use a longer cable. You work your whole hat, and then instead of dividing up your stitches onto like either 4 DPNs like this or shorter ones, and then working with the 5th needle, you just divide up your stitches on the long loop, and then you split them down the middle and bring them down to your 2 needles with your working yarn on your back needle that's connected to your skein, and you just pull that needle out and start working your stitches in the front and then you turn it, and you kind of zhuzh all those stitches that are over here back up. You pull this back out and you keep working. And so it's a easy way to close off a hat and even to start a hat. Although I will say, I can't think of, I think it's called Nervous Knitter. If you want to go learn how to start a project with the magic loop in the round, I would go to YouTube Nervous Knitter. What most people won't show you in doing the magic loop, such a great video, because I remember when I was learning the magic loop method and people were saying, well, you don't have to just close off your stitches. You could actually work in the round a whole thing on it. Oh wow, I was a tangled mess. And I thought, this is ridiculous. It's the most awkward thing. How do I join? And nobody really shows you that. They'll show you the yarn already on the needles. They'll be like, oh, you just pull the back needle out, knit the front needle, flip it. Okay, pull the back needle out again, stitch that up, and work the front needle again and keep going. Now when you start a project, you got to be very careful to have your yarn over the top of the cable and to pull your needles really close together to make sure your yarn isn't inside the hook. and to not cast on too tight because you won't be able to zhuzh your yarn back up. So getting back to this, you can either do the magic loop, or if you have 4 of these and you work the 5th with the 5th needle, deep hands, or if you have 3 even and work with the 4th, you could work in a triangle like this, right? That's all you need. And when you're going to get your gauge, 18 stitches over 24 rows. If you're getting too many stitches, just bump your needle size up. If you're getting too little amount of stitches, like 2.5, 3 or something, you need 4 inches by 4 inches. Go down in your needle size. The color they used here, if you want to get Baracco Vintage, is Smoke for medium worsted weight yarn. It is a 3 for ease, and I'd say a beginner knitter could do this easy. But what I love again about Annie's is they always have a designer that comes along and does almost the same thing in crochet. The only difference I ever notice is you need more yarn when you crochet. So 2 balls for this, and they used Stacy Charles Fine yarns, Siesta Rio Merino Nudge, medium worsted weight virgin wool. And again, I don't work with wool. So you would go with whatever gauge. It's called the 3-hook hat. So you need a G hook, a H hook, and an I hook. And for the large, there's areas you're going to work with the I hook, and for all the sizes, there's areas you're going to work with the I hook, and for all the sizes, there's areas you're going to work like the brim with the G hook. What I would say about this pattern here is if you're somebody that wears glasses, wear your glasses and read it really carefully. You want to make sure to get gauge with your G hook. You want to do the first 6 rounds of the brim, the ribbing. And when you do that, you should have 2 inches. And you will. You will. With the I hook, you want to go to the pattern of half double crochets, and basically you're doing slip stitching with this too. You're working front post, back post with your brim, and then you're doing a whole lot of slip stitching into the front loop, the back loop, and then doing half double crochets, and then you're going back to the front post, back post. So in the first 6 rounds, it gives you a little bit of all of that, of the body of the hat, and you should have 4 inches with the I hook. Whatever yarn you're using, if you've achieved that, you've got gauge. Again, if it's too large, too much, go up in size in your needle size. If it's too small, go down. So that's kind of the general rule. What else? You need a place marker for this one. And I will say it's a little bejiggly at the beginning because this one, and I know a lot of people love to do this, it really does matter. Some people don't do it, but with this one, you're going to go ahead and chain up either, put my glasses on and see what it says. There's a small, medium, and a large. The pattern is worked up in the small. And you're either going to chain up 78 or 84 or 90, I believe. I have that right? Right. And then in the ribbing, it's a little confusing, but it says to look at the notes, and it explains it. You're going to be leaving a longer tail when you start your chain, and you're just going to, just like there's kind of a jag and like a area that's a gap when you're joining in the round with knitting, there's an area that's a gap when you're joining in the round when you're chaining. So you're going to leave a longer waist tail and sew that together, those bottom stitches together. And then just pay attention to, with this one, where it says don't turn in bold prints and where it says do turn, because you're basically going to be working around and around and around and around, then somewhere in the pattern it's going to say turn. Then you're going to turn, go the other way. And then it's going to say don't turn. You're going to be working consecutively around. So the pattern notes say weave in the loose ends as you progress, and that's important from the beginning. You're always going to slip stitch join as indicated unless otherwise stated. It might tell you to just keep going or to do a stitch. And you're going to work in continuous rounds and do not turn or join unless it tells you and it's in bold print. And mark your first stitch round and move your marker up with each round. That's really important. And that's it. So you just have to pay attention to the bold print in the pattern. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to work on it tonight. So that's my next thing I'm going to do. And I'm going to use this color. And it is Coates & Clark Cafe Latte. Red Heart Super Saver Jumbo. Yeah. So that's what I'm going to work on. And I might make one in purple, but I think because you're going to be working in, what I meant to say is you're going to be working in the spine or the back bar of the chain when you start out. So you're going to be working in those little, almost like your spine, the little bumps. So instead of the V's in a chain, you're going to be working in the back. What crocheters call the spine. I'm going to get going with this in a minute, but I want to show you some cast-ons real quick. And the other one I'll come back and show you is, and I think I can do this one, it's a beret. And I'm going to be making some raspberry berets for the celebration of Prince Rogers Nelson's life, who passed away he was murdered. We know that. Most people know. It was a homicide. And somebody drugged him really bad. And he didn't celebrate birthdays because he was a Jehovah's Witness, and in his life he believed that he didn't accomplish anything being born yet, which is what Jehovah's Witnesses believe. But when you die, you came to the earth and did what you were supposed to, your legacy, your destiny, and there's something to celebrate. And then, of course, your reward, going home to meet your maker and coming back again. So, I really am planning to do some traveling this year. And I may begin with a little pilgrimage to Minnesota. I'm looking to make a move, and I'm thinking of 2 or 3 places to move to that would not be where I currently am, which is in Rochester, New York. So I'm thinking of Saratoga, Minnesota, and I can't really say the other place, but I'm not going anywhere south, that's for sure. I want to be in the cold 4 seasons of the weather. So I'm going to be making this beret. It's called the Garden State Beret by Lion Brand. And all you need to know how to do is knit and purl and cast on. It. You might need 1, 2, 3, 4. I think you need 5 markers for this. They're using Vanna's Choice, and I have this color in Vanna's Choice. It's really nice to work with, dusty blue. But I also have it in purple. But I'm going to be using Mainstay and Bernay Boysenberry because I'm trying to find something close to a raspberry color. So not really a purple, but more like a raspberry color. I'm kind of close with the color I have. And you will need, pattern number is L8131. And it really is a cool beret. You only need one ball, like 3.5. The gauge is 16 stitches, about 4 inches. Just stockinette, knit every round. With your larger needles, you're going to be working with 2 sets of needles with this. If I could find it, 4.5 millimeter needles. That's a size 7 US. And then some stitch markers, a blunt needle. You also need a size 6, 4.0. And the smaller needle is for the brim, larger needles for the top. And that's it. You just need to know how to switch your needles up and cast on and join, and that's it. 5 little pieces of yarn that are a different color, or 4 pieces of yarn that are a different color from the first one you join with. Very easy. Basically all go ribbing and then knit. So again, you can use the magic loop with this because it's knitting, or you can use DP ends. So these are the 2 hats I'm going to be working on next. Lion Brand and Bendy Carter's Knit and Crochet Now at Annie's 3 hook. This one's going to be a little bit of a bear to get started because I never do well working with the back loop, but I'm going to show you that in a minute what I mean. Let me grab some yarn and show you what I mean. Am I tangled? What happened here? Okay, that's better. I'm going to show you a couple of cast-ons. The cast-on I used for this is a Old World German cast-on. There's 2 cast-ons I would suggest for this. 3. A KnitWise, a Old World German, or an Italian cast-on because it's ribbing. And it's fine. Right? It's supposed to be really fine. And the long tail cast-on and maybe a crochet cast-on, some of the others might give you a little too much material here. And I'll show you what I mean. With the cast-ons real quick. But then I also want to show you what I mean by that's a slip knot. So you're gonna chain up. I was gonna long tail cast on. Yep, that's what I was gonna do. All right, so actually, all right, when you begin, you're gonna leave a long tail. You don't need that much, but you're gonna begin with a long tail, and then you're just going to chain whatever size you need. I'm gonna be making the small one. Everybody chains differently. is my preferred way. Easy peasy. All right. So, let me see if I can get the lighting right. So, you have, oh, actually, I want to go the other way. Sorry. So you have these V shapes here. Can you see them? Maybe white was not the right color to use. Just V's. Right? Let me take that off. I can show you better. So you have these V's. And then when you turn it, you have, do you see the little spine with the bumps sticking up? That's what you're going to work into. So you want to put your glasses on for this. There's so many different parts, which is fun to learn, of the crocheting that you can work into. You could work into the V shape, but for some reason people like to turn it around sometimes and work into the spine. And you're kind of just gonna, after a while, they just stand up and say hello to you, but at first they don't. So we're gonna be doing half double crochets. So you yarn over to do a half double crochet, and we're gonna do the second chain from the hook for Bendy Carter's 3-hook hat. So you're gonna count down 1, 2, and go into the third. So, or I'm sorry, so 1, 2. We're going to go right into that little bumpity bump there, drop a loop, and you have 3 on your hook. That is a half double crochet, yarn over and pull through all 3. That is the beginning. It will refer to the beginning half double crochet. That is it. And then yarn over and go into the next bumpity bump. So you kind of got to really look to make sure you're not going into the same one you just came out of. But after a while, they just kind of stand up and say hello. All right. And then no, that's not it. Oh, am I the wrong way? Let's see. Did I forget? No, I'm the right way. Ah. It's kind of awkward the first row all the time, but totally worth it. And you'll get the hang of it. It'll be a little bit well worth it. I just kind of got to turn mine sideways to see it. I haven't tried to do this on the other side. I gather you could. If this was really problematic, I think you could. And that doesn't look right. That's the wrong spot. There it is. Okay, so you're going to go into that little spine part there. And then chain 1. It's already uneven. It shouldn't be that way. Just ignore that. And I probably missed a stitch. I gotta turn a light on. So what you're going to be doing is working the front post and the back post. So there's a post in between here that's hard to see. It's what's in between. You're going to come around like this and do a double crochet, make a front post double crochet, then you're going to wrap around and come around the back and push out this way. Gotta get around the whole thing. And make a back post double crochet. And then yarn over, come around the front and make a, and really again, I don't know how many times I can repeat this, it's just much harder to do the first row than any other row, then it's easy. So you're just doing front post, back post. You're yarning over and then you're pulling through all three. And then I think there's one left on the end. Right, so let's pretend that's kind of like a ribbing. The white is just getting so washed out in the, it's hard to see. But that's actual ribbing. That's all you're doing. You're chaining one, and then you're doing a front post, and you're doing a back post where you're pushing it to the back. That is, these are all the stitches you need to know. When it tells you to join, you'll have that, you're going to join to the top. Like you'll have more stitches. You'll have like, I don't know, 20 something stitches, right? Or 20, 70, 80, or 90 stitches. You're just going to do a slip stitch join like this to make a little circle. And it will tell you to keep going around. Of course, you'll have more material. It's really tiny. But you're just going to take this and sew it to the bottom. I wish I could show you on my hands what I'm doing, but I can't. Show you what I mean. So this is in a circle, sort of. But this part right here needs to be joined. Right here. So you're going to sew it with this. And then you have a circle. That's that. Okay, so let me just quickly show you the cast-ons because that was annoying as heck, right? But that's all the stitches you need to know how to do. Chain, work into the back spine, make your first chain, doing half double crochets, then work front post, back post of the double crochets, and then sew your bottom thing in, and then keep going from there. You're just slip stitching in the front loop, the back loop, the front loop, the back loop, half double crocheting, turning, not turning. That's all you're doing. I'm going to pick a different kind of yarn. Yeah, I'm going to have the brown. It's going to work better. All right, so the old world German cast on is you're estimating the amount of stitches you need. I'm just going to pretend this is an amount of stitches. And, well, let me show you the long tail first. The long tail is a double-stranded one that everyone does for a lot of things. You're just grabbing your two strands, making a slingshot, coming up underneath your thumb, around, and up. You're coming up underneath your thumb, grabbing your strand on your index finger. And this is the old world. Up the long tail. I'm going to show you the difference between them. So again, you're making a slingshot. You're coming up underneath your thumb, around and grabbing the strand over your index finger, coming through the thumb loop. That's it. And it creates your first row of knit stitch, and it's a little bit of a ledge. Okay? Whereas the old world crochet, let me put a few more on here so you can see the difference. All right, maybe too many. I'll take some off. All right, so the old world crochet starts the same way, but you go around your two strands, down through your thumb strand, around and grab that index, and you come up through that little triangle right there. So around your two strands, down through your two strands, grab your strand over your index finger, and you have a little triangular kind of pyramid coming through, I guess. Around, down, and grab it. Around, down, and grab it. Around, down, and grab it. And here's the difference. So this is really thin, and this is thicker. You have a ledge. Thin, thicker. So you don't want that material there. So that's how you do the cast on for that. If you want to do an old world. The other one you can do is estimate your amount of yarn, just like in a long tail or an old world. And then just hold your yarn in between. Like say you estimated this is going to be your stitches, your long tail, right? Instead of making a slip knot, you're going to just hold your yarn in between your two fingers. This is called the Italian cast on. You're just going to take your one needle and you're going to come down and twist away from you. It's not really a stitch. It's not closed off. It's just a twist. You're going to kind of, your clue is going to be the yarn that is over your index finger is up. You're going to come up under, you're going to go under your thumb strand and around your index finger and come up. And that's actually a knit stitch. What you're going to be creating with the Italian cast on is knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. So it's great for ribbing like this. So then the yarn that is up is on your thumb. So you're going to come around this way, go like this, and you actually create a wrap like a purl. Back, back, like this. Right? You can tell by looking at it, if you get confused, the knit stitches look longer and almost like a yarn over, and you'll remember what to do by the yarn that is coming up the highest, and that's this one here. So we're going to go this way, right, and this way. So this is a knit. So this is a purl, this is a knit, this is a purl, this is a knit, this is a purl, this is a knit, this is a purl, And I think I did that. Knit. And then it's going to be more of a lacy. At the last stitch, you're going to lock it off, either with a thumb cast on or old long tail or whatever you want to do. But it's called the invisible cast on. It's also called the Italian cast on because it has a very thin border. And I'll just tell you that you're going to knit what you see. And the first row is kind of boogers. A little more difficult. Not too bad. But the cool thing about this is it's real boingy. It's invisible. It's kind of lacy, lays flat. First, you're going to do a purl. You see a bump there. You're going to do a purl. Just going to knit what you see. You see a purl, and then see your knit is kind of like long. So you're going to knit it. Oh, that's a tail. Don't want to do that. Wait a minute. Get my tail out of the way. Going to knit it. And then I have two knits here. I don't know why, but I'm keeping in pattern. I'm going to knit what I see. I mean, that's all you're doing. And it kind of bulks up your yarn and gives you this substance and density that you don't have in other brims or ribbings. You just don't have it. I don't know what's going on with this. I don't know what it is. Hang on. I didn't see that one. There we go. So I remember my mom, not my mom's mom, my dad's mom used to make these little, like, we called Italian slippers, or just grandma's slippers. That shouldn't be there. I think I showed the cast on, but I'm not showing you how to work the first row very well. It's very dark in here. I should turn the light on. La la la. I always start my video when the light's going down or it's going up. But I can fix that. But her slippers would last forever. And I remember going to her house and wanted to know, how do you make these slippers? And it was all in the cast on. She said, it's just knit purl. It's just you make the stitch. Like, what do you mean you make the stitch? She sat down and she did the Italian cast on so fast, my head spun. I didn't have any idea what she was doing. And I didn't want to bother her because I was trying to do it and she was looking and she said, you do wrong. And I said, okay. And part of learning is doing it wrong. So I was like, cool with that. But then she grabbed the needles from me. She was like, no, I do. You watch. And I just got the feeling that I should just sit there and watch. And that's how I learned it. And it's kind of one that's hard to slow down. I have too many pearls here. But whatever you're knitting with this should be a knit, purl, knit, purl, knit, purl. So I went the wrong way somewhere. But what you'll see is the edge looks really lacy and fine. And some people call this the invisible cast on. Right, I'm going to fix that right now. Not acceptable. All right. I wonder if it's raining out. Keep looking up. Funny noises in my window. Mine's working out to be more like a double. I got 2x2 ribbing. And my tail is nowhere near it should be. I think I worked my tail for the first few stitches. But the Italian cast on is really fun. You right away get this very, and that's why it's called invisible. It's kind of invisible, lacy edge that is really quite cool. Because I remember with these slippers, they were forever awesome. I mean, they never really wore out. You might get a new pair at Christmas, for sure. Especially if you were at her house, because everybody that went in had a pair of slippers. And she always had some extra slippers that she made. But the Italian cast on, what's really cool about it is not only does it have that fine edge, but it's boingy in elasticity. But once you work this up in your knit purl or purl knit or whatever you're doing, it's mostly a ribbing. You'll see there's a density in it that you don't get with other cast-ons. You don't get this rich texture and puffiness and coziness that happens with this. I think a lot of people stay away from the Italian cast on because when looking at tutorials of it, sometimes it'll be explained in, like, I've seen it explained up to 7 steps to do, and reading it can be even more confusing. But then I saw a really good tutorial on Marley Bird, and there it is. That's the Italian cast on. So you can see that could be a really cool thin brim too. So these are all the different cast-ons. The other cast-on that you could do, but I probably wouldn't do, thinking about it, is, well, the KnitWise you could do, and that would be make a slip stitch, turn your yarn, use your knitting needle, and just go right into your stitch as if to knit. Pick up your yarn, pull your stitch through, and pull it onto your needle. All right, go into your stitch again, find the right yarn here, and pull through. And this is all you're doing. This is actually a nice one for a brim too. For this kind of hat, really nice. You can see that's a really pretty one. Fine, pretty. And then the other cast on, but I'm not sure I would do this one, is called a crochet cast on, which is cool only because you could correct it. If you had to do a bunch of stitches, you You could easily do this. Maybe a little awkward at first, but easy. You make your slip stitch onto your crochet hook. You put your knitting needle to the left of it. You hold it. You wrap from the back around the knitting needle into the front of your crochet hook. Then you come right down into your slip stitch and you're connected and you have your first stitch. You wrap around again. Now you have 2 stitches. Wrap around again. And that's all you're doing. This does make a little bit of a ledge, so it would have a little bit of a material on a brim of a hat. Maybe not the best one to do, but you would always stop like 1 stitch shy of your stitch count and then just put it on here. Say you had a whole bunch of stitches to cast on and you counted them all up, but you didn't have enough. You could just take this off, do this, and keep going. Or if you had too many, you could just take that off and keep pulling until you got to the right amount, and then pull this out. And when you got your stitch count, correct it this way. So it's good for correcting stitches. It's also good for, I'll show you what I mean. It has more of a square opening, more of an opening than a V. And it's a really nice cast on for assembly, for sewing things together. So if you're doing squares in knitting or parts of a sweater or something, you could use the knit crochet. I mean the crochet cast on. And it's very easy to get through those little spaces there. So those are all the different crochet cast on, knit cast on, chain up, work the spine. Sorry I couldn't show you the spine very well or the crochet very well. I'm going to turn a light on somewhere here. And I hope you'll try these. It's really getting dark in here now. And that would have helped, right? And I guess I'm going to work on this one tonight. So if you hung in there for the video, thank you. It was a long video. And I hope you got some use out of it, some cast-ons and some cool patterns. I'll list the patterns in the information. Have a nice weekend. Have a very safe St. Patrick's Day. If you're out there in the parade, be safe. Don't drink too much, you know. Just have a safe one, all right? Take care. Bye-bye. And thanks for joining me.